All right, so allow me to begin by thanking you, not only on my behalf, but the entire community of boys and girls who like playing video games.
Okay.
Uh, you have 10 seconds to define art. Go.
What? The stuff that's in the who.
Totally
Uh,
gonna go over.
I phone a friend.
Seriously, is there an actual definition of art?
Not that I've. There are a lot of definitions for art. There's not a single. I don't think a single definition for art. And if there was one, I don't think it necessarily would be true because art is very subjective.
There are words that are sometimes used to further define art. Fine art, high art, performance art, interactive art. How do these relate to each other, and is one of them accepted as more important or valid than another form?
I think that would depend if you're on the outside of the art community, those words are just buzzwords.
Hmm.
If you're on the inside, if you're an artist or a gallery owner or find yourself to be an art snob, those words are hierarchies. Fine art, painting and stuff like that. That's really up top. But then you also have, multimedia art, performance art, all that stuff. It's really it's hard to describe. I think a lot of that stuff is just again for your average Joe is just buzzwords, but for people within the community, it tends to elevate their art more. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm performance art. And what do you do? Oh, I do installations. It's
Hmm.
but to your average person, it's just art or not.
Right.
What is this stuff? Just paint thrown on the wall? That's art? Well, yeah, to some people.
So, does creating something for commercial purposes immediately disqualify it from being considered art?
Not necessarily. I think if you look at movies, they're all, I think, they're all really commerce. I mean, every director, apart from some really struggling artists, student artists, directors, every director wants their movie to be seen. Um, and in order for that to happen, certain things have to uh, happen, like tickets to the movie have to be bought,
Hmm.
and advertising, a financial backer. A lot of the times has to be, not a lot of people can afford to make their own movies.
So, you've been following this heated debate that's been going on for the past few days. What's your take on it?
Uh, Roger Ebert,
Hmm.
it's just one man's opinion. People seem to think that he's the answer to all questions. He's an expert at, he's a really good expert at one form of art, which is movies,
Hmm.
uh, film, um, maybe literature too. But it doesn't necessarily make him an expert on all kinds of art. Is it because he's old? I don't think so. I think the Penny Arcade guys made a valid point saying that you know there have been critics of art since art existed, and people have been saying this is not art. This is just looks like somebody drew it with a crayon, um, and then 50 years later Picasso is famous.
Yeah.
So it's just one man's opinion. And I think it's overblown that people are reacting in a way that they are. That, oh, no, he thinks that video games aren't art. Again, subjective.
Now, you have played video games, and you do play video games on occasion,
Yes.
but you wouldn't consider yourself a gamer.
I had a Sega Genesis. I had a Nintendo. I had a Game Boy. I think at one point I had one of those virtual Game Boys. Terrible. Burned my
When
retinas
where you
out,
put your
yeah, right. You just sit there and play
red alarm or red alert?
Mario
Oh, the Mario.
Mario
Yeah.
Tennis.
Yeah.
It was awful. But that wasn't art. I just want to say. I've had the last system I had was Nintendo GameCube, and I loved it. But I simply don't have the time right now, and the only games I really have now are on my phone or something like that. I don't have a game system at the moment.
If a game developer says our work is not art, does that mean it's not art? And that doesn't apply to the whole community, obviously? But if they say my work is not art, should we immediately say he says it's not art? It's not art.
No, because that's just a person's opinion. Again, it's art is such a slippery thing. You can't. I don't know if it has to be a consensus thing where
Hmm.
majority of people in the world think something is art and therefore it's art. Art exists whether we notice it or label it or don't label it. It's a nebulous thing to me. Um, some more than others, like sculpture is art. We know it's art. Painting is art. We know it's art. Performance art, I hate it. Is it art? Probably. Video games is one of those nebulous things where there are so many artists, cartoonists, illustrators, writers, cinematographers, you name it, production designers. So many artists work on these games just like they do with movies and plays and comic books and everything like that. How can it not be art? Is it simply because it's interactive and people play and interact with it? Does it mean it's not art? I think it's just a new form of art. Art has to solicit a feeling
Hmm.
from whoever is there watching or experiencing it. Performance art, where the performer interacts with the audience. Cirque du Soleil, you have clowns walking around the audience and stuff like that. I think that's art. It's a form of art. So is this. Just because you have the ability to make a decision within a game doesn't, automatically discredit it as not art.
And the idea that there are rules, does that mean it's not art?
Any designer that's ever heard of a grid system would disagree with you
Hmm.
because that is one of the first things you're taught in design is that things look better when they're not just randomly thrown onto a page.
Hmm.
So there's a system, but the system is there to get you going. It's not meant to um, contain you. It's meant to, hey, this is the base. This is where it starts.
Hmm.
Go from there. Um, so no, there are rules. There are rules, definitely rules. There, you can talk about how paint has to be mixed in a certain way, otherwise it doesn't work.
Hmm.
That's a rule. So no, rules. I think the rules are good because otherwise it doesn't mean anything.
And you've already said you can consider games possibly being art.
I think it's a new kind of art. Um, it's a collaborative art.
Hmm.
It's collaboration between different types of arts, like I've mentioned before, design, illustration, cartooning, writing, all the things that I'm forgetting,
Hmm.
and it's a collaboration between those artists and the end user because, and again, at the same time, it's high commerce.
Hmm.
It's meant to be sold, packaged. The only thing is that the only situation I would think that it could be considered not art is because one person isn't laboring somewhere in a little studio creating a video game.
Well, there are
And then
independent
puts it on
developers.
a wall. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're indie developers.
Yeah.
So but that's the traditional look. Traditional model of art is the guy or the girl, whatever, painting or sculpting or creating a dance move
Hmm.
or something. So in that respect, no, it's not the same, but it's not, it's just different. But there's validity in its existence.